Earth has not anything to show more fair. Dull would he be of soul who would pass by a sight so touching in its majesty. This city now doth like a garment wear the beauty of the morning, silent, bare. Ships, stars, domes, theatres, and temples lie open unto the fields and to the sky, all bright and glittering in the smokeless air. Never did sun more beautifully steep in his first splendor, valley, rock, or hill. Never saw I, never felt a calm so deep. The river glideth at his own sweet will. Dear God, the very houses seem asleep, and all that mighty heart is lying still. William Wordsworth enjoyed a fond relationship with his sister Dorothy Wordsworth. The journals she left behind are often a good place to start down the road of a Wordsworth poem. She writes this in recollection of a trip she took with her brother. We left London on Saturday morning at 5:30 or 6, the 31st July, I have forgot which. We mounted the Dover coach at Charing Cross. It was a beautiful morning, and it wouldn't be unreasonable to assume this lovely sight as the muse for the sonnet. The poem is perhaps most glaringly unique in how it chooses to idealize city life, often the antithesis of the images that romantics gush over. The poem received mixed responses. Some critics held the view that it was terribly out of touch with reality to make London seem like heaven on earth when its people were in the throes of hardship, while others chose to revel in the fact that it made London seem like heaven on earth. It is written as a Petrarchan sonnet with an octave and a sestet, and though there is no clearly evident turn or volta between the two parts, the shift in purpose, so to say, is obvious enough. The rhyme scheme is A-B-B-A, A-B-B-A, C-D, 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 and the sonnet is written purely in iambic pentameter. Each line is of 5 iambs, where an iamb is a metric structure consisting of an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. The third line, for instance, would read as a sight so touching in its majesty. According to the poet, there is no picture that the earth has to offer that is more beautiful, and only a man with no taste in the magnificent would pass by without sparing a second glance or thought. The picture in question, one quiet morning in London. The city is wearing the morning like a garment, and all the structures are reaching towards the warm sun. The ships on the dock, the towers in the city, the theatres on the streets, and the temples in the country. They are glittering in the morning light, the air around clear and smokeless. In a city that was making its way through the Industrial Revolution, that was a wondrous thing. As the Thames River glides by, the poet is overwhelmed by the calm that floods him. The houses are, after all, still asleep, and the heartbeat of the city is as yet still. In that moment, there is little else but Wordsworth and his darling city. There are few cities that I want to visit, and London is well about 3 of them, which is to say that I'm reasonably biased about this little portrait of the city. The city skyline is not commonly inspiration for poetry. You are far more likely to chance upon a poem that idealizes the woods and the fields, the flowers and the birds, than one that writes a love letter to the sparkling lights and towering outlines, the sounds of the car and the bustle of the people, and perhaps that has as much to do with collective perception as individual proclivities. And that is what makes this poem a refreshing break for me in my little summer romance. The enjambments used in lines 2, 4, 6, and 9 add to the sense of awe that the poet is feeling and wants the reader to feel. And sure, there is a fair bit of hyperbole, but it is London. But if you ask me to pick one line to justify Wordsworth's poetic genius, it would have to be "doth like a garment wear." Despite being an abstract image, you can almost picture the exact sight, and that piece of imagery is, well, genius.